You're watching Leafs Morning Take with host Nick Alberga and former NHLer Jay Rosehill. The show starts now.
Presented by Bet365, it's time for the Monday edition of Leafs Morning Take. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Use code NATION, all in uppercase. Today, it's Nick Alberga, Jay Rosehill. Our Super Chat charity partner this season is Sick Kids. Happy to unveil that. You want to make your question or comment, get on the show. Hit us with a Super Chat. Proceeds from our Super Chat will go to Sick Kids, Canada's first children's hospital and a top research intensive children's hospital in Canada and third in the world. What's going on, Rosie?
Nice, man. Like that new initiative a lot. So get your Super Chats out there. Nothing, man. Monday morning after losing both games on the weekend. It is what it is at this point. How are you doing?
I'm pretty good. I'm still trying to come to grips with that Juan Soto contract, man. 15 years, $765 million. Like, what would you do with $765 million, Rosie?
Oh, I don't even know, man. Yeah, it's so much cash. It just seems like it's just the way it's always gone. You just, back when A-Rod signed his, you just couldn't believe it. Like, it just didn't make sense. And now you're talking about contracts being in the billions. Like, the B word just gets thrown around so much more than it used to. But yeah, I'm not a big baseball guy. Crazy money. It's just what they make and produce to be able to pay players that and still be like, it's absolutely wild. And I guess that's what 164 game schedule gets here, or what is it? About
162. 162. But this guy pretty much essentially guaranteed he's never winning another World Series. Like, not to knock on the Mets, but they're not the New York Yankees. And maybe it's because I'm a guy who loved Jeter and I love Cano and everybody on the Yankees growing up, and I still like that team. But the Mets are the New York Jets of the NFL, the New York Islanders of the NHL. They're not going to win squad. They're going to find a way to ruin this. And the problem with this, and I understand it and I get it, if you have an owner who's going to spend any penny possible, he was going to outbid everybody in this process. The LA Dodgers are a super team. I know we're a hockey podcast. I know we're a Leafs podcast, but they are a super team. There is no way to compete with that team. That's the problem. You don't just give up. It stinks to see him leave the Yankees, at least. I hate that.
Do you like those super teams? You think they're fair? You think they're right?
It had me thinking over the weekend, man. Like, remember the era where the Maple Leafs could spend anything they wanted? It's tough to grasp. They never won. The super teams, if you have a rich owner, man, and there's no salary cap, by all means, do your thing. I don't know.
Well, it's funny to go back. We were talking on the weekend with, some different trade proposals and who could fit under the cap for this. And I mean, it is major gymnastics to make this salary cap work. And it made us laugh at back in the day. I mean, the Toronto Maple Leafs were the Yankees of hockey, and they have a lot of money and they want to win, and they couldn't buy a team. You couldn't, before the salary cap, you couldn't just put together a team and say, well, we need this last piece. Well, let's go steal them from this place, free agency. Like, let's just be the highest bid and put them on the team. And I guess they did try to do that. And oftentimes they went with, like, guys that were free agents finally that were older and veterans, and they tried to do it. It just never worked, and the years ticked by. It's kind of funny now thinking about how close they can get with the salary cap era, having the floodgates open and still not being able to get it done. It's a funny thing, but it wasn't only the Leafs trying to buy teams back in the day. It's not that simple, as we know.
Honestly, the more frustrating thing, and you can speak to this being the former player in the league, what this means, what kind of bar it sets for the rest of free agency moving forward into next season, where Vladimir Guerrero, the Blue Jays homegrown prospect talent, is slated to become an unrestricted free agent, right? And you're going to have to bid with all these teams, man, the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Dodgers, for the services to retain your star. And that's quite honestly what pisses me off more. It's not that Soto is a Blue Jay or is not a Blue Jay. I didn't expect him to be a Blue Jay, but more so the bar it sets now for the next big thing free agent.
Yeah, high tides raise all ships. It's the way it is. So we'll see what happens. Again, I'm not too heavy into the baseball stuff, but yeah, when that happens, everyone else that's UFA coming up is licking their lips saying, oh, baby, my comparables just got bumped considerably because this guy just signed a monster. And oftentimes you hear GMs and owners pissed at the other one for throwing out massive contracts. And I actually laugh because I remember Minnesota Wild owner was bitching about these contracts these days. They're getting out of control. And then he signs Suter and Parise to like $105 million contracts, which was insane back then. It's like, why are you bitching at it? And then you just did the same thing and juiced the living hell out of everything. And obviously those contracts didn't pay off for him either. So funny business things going on in all sports, really.
It is wild, this contract, and I even saw a clause that he has the ability to opt out after 5 years if the Mets don't agree to up his value AAV by 51 to 55. So it's actually 805 million, right? Like, you're not going to let go of this guy after 5 years. Like, it's ludicrous. But anyway, sorority sleepaway mortuary. What a handle writes in. Is this live or recorded? We're live. We're live.
It's live. It's a live show. It's a live
We're
show.
live. We're live,
We
guys.
record it for later if you want to watch, though. Don't worry.
Yes, very true. Naturally, Rosie, the question, the spin-off question of Juan Soto. What does this mean for Mitch Marner?
It is unrelated. Yeah. I don't know. Like, do you think Mitch is okay to just wait till the end of the season, or does he would want to? It's just weird. Like, when do these heat up? Is this going to be more of a distraction coming down the barrel? Is this going to, this is probably going to wind up again and get a lot of traction right before trade deadline? And then if that passes, then maybe passes. And then what I hope that Toronto media doesn't do is make it a big deal right before the playoffs. Like, if he's not signed at the deadline, then let it go and don't talk about it again until the playoffs are over. In my opinion, that's, if you want the team to win, that's the best route to go, because these distractions and talking about it and bothering the guy 24/7, the same goddamn questions, it is so monotonous. Either he signs before or let it go till after.
My prediction is that there's going to be some leaks over the couple months. Closing into the deadline. There always is when it comes to these hot button free agents. I'm sure you'll see the same with like Amico Rantanen in Colorado. I don't expect much to come of any of this. Like, we all know that the player has put himself in position to get paid, whether it's with the Maple Leafs or anybody else. But to your point, there's not really any sense talking about it until something happens. But I do foresee a scenario where there's multiple leaks in favor of the player over the next couple months. I don't know if you view it that way.
Yeah, it's funny what they release into the media, and it's kind of a little cat and mouse game, and you can give certain people little tidbits information you think will help your camp, and that's kind of how it's always been. But I don't know. It's funny, man. I don't know. I don't like, this weekend is kind of a reminder that things can. It's just the parity in this league, and good teams can fall off the map so fast. And not that the Leafs have at all, but you get some traction, some momentum going. You're like, holy shit, we're world beaters, and you're just excited to, like, this will never end. And you get on a little bit of a roll, and then you can get brought back to reality pretty quick. And the Leafs are no strangers to being in the position of, holy smokes, are we good? We're in a roll during the regular season and rocking and rolling, and holy moly, sign the whole crew and let's lock this down before their value goes crazy. And then you get into a playoff series, and it's just all of a sudden you turn on and it's over, and like, it's a kaput and it's a wasted season. And we've been there all too often. And kind of this weekend was a little bit of, oh God, we're capable of we're human, and it's what happens. But I don't know. Again, I am with you. I don't really have a whole lot to say unless there's new information, man. I just don't want it to be a distraction.
I'm just waiting here in my content share, just waiting for the playoffs. You know this. You know how I feel about this. I know that you hate that, but it's true. This team will not be judged until they get to the Stanley Cup playoffs, plain and simple. So Matt Murray banged up over the weekend against Laval. If those of you are wondering, he made it 6 games. He 2-1-2, 2.42, and 9.16. I mean, he's the 4th string netminder, so I really don't care. But it is the unfortunate case of Matt Murray in his career where he wins back-to-back Stanley Cups early on and just could not, for the life of him, stay healthy. And unfortunately, that has transferred over to his time as a Maple Leaf. I like the fact that they brought him back, gave him an opportunity. The medical team has worked with him extensively the last couple of years. But again, when I see that come across my wire, I don't even flinch anymore. I'm sorry.
I know, like, how big of a deal was that? What did he hurt?
Yeah.
How long? Is anyone even bothering to announce that? I don't know, but yeah, that's just the story with Matt Murray. He's hurt again. Okay, yeah, I know. He's always hurt. He is a very difficult time staying healthy. I don't know why that is. It's unfortunate for him. I mean, on the other flip side of the coin, he was able to win, like you say, back-to-back cups and have that, which is a hell of a lot more than other people's. But his career is marred by that, and it's held back drastically by those injuries. So I'm not I'm just not in a place to worry about goaltender depth right now. I think that if you look at what Woll and Stoley are doing, and you got Hildebeest in the background waiting, and then I mean, if shit really hit the fan, and you're in the worst possible position, you could catch Matt Murray, who's very capable if he's healthy. So it's just not something in the forefront of my mind, really. There's other years where this would have been a bigger deal.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's not as much of a story in this market because of the two guys you just mentioned, how good they've been in Stolars and Wall. And I think for the most part, pretty decent throughout the weekend. Not Toronto's best efforts, but it's going to happen. I mean, to lose back-to-back games in regulation for the first time since October 22nd and 24th tells me what I need to know about this team. Like, they've been red hot. You're not going to have it every game. So I didn't really subscribe too much to what transpired over the weekend against Washington and Pittsburgh specifically. Was going to mention as well, what's a better holiday gift right now, Rosie, than booking a trip with fellow diehard Toronto fans to watch the team you love play a game in Nashville? I'm really looking forward to this. Music City, Thursday, March 20th to Sunday, March 23rd. The first time ever, TLN Nation vacation, Rosie. I love it.
Sign yourself up. Let's go watch some hockey. Drink a couple beers if that's what you're into. Listen to some live music, get into some warm weather, and just have a little vacation. If you watch this show, you like the Leafs, why not do it this way, man? Nashville's an incredible spot. We're going to watch the Leafs play the Preds, live pods, all kinds of different activities going on. It's going to be a fun one. I am looking forward to it. And if you're listening, you can sign yourself up and come along with us.
We're offering two different packages, one with flights that's priced at $24.50 plus tax, one without $12.99 plus tax. Please note as well, hotel rooms, are double occupancy. For more information on how to book this trip of a lifetime, head on over to nationgear.ca or check out the link in our show bio, Life's Too Short for Ordinary Vacations. Make sure to get those super chats in support of Sick Kids. We love that. Great initiative here beginning on this podcast at the Leafs Nation 401 on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Leafs Morning Take, wherever you find your podcast. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com. So a pair of losses over the weekend. Rosie, where do you want to start?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe obviously the Washington game. It's one of those games where you ran up against an opponent who was playing very solid. They are offensively minded team, but they played, pretty strong defense, and they put together a 60-minute effort. So you got to tip your cap to that once in a while. And, both games to me, yeah, disappointing to lose and brings you back to reality a little bit. And they let some, exciting things in the standings kind of slip through their fingertips. I think they had an opportunity to really get to the top there, and now they're kind of slid back to the pack a fair bit. And that's a tough weekend, back-to-back losses in regulation, as you mentioned. But any one of those games, one single event goes the other way, whether it's a weird bounce or an odd puck play or a misstep here, a bad call, or whatever you want to call it. One little thing goes different, and that game's drastically different. So the margins are that thin. I'm not going deep into, dissecting the game and the players and the team and start to asking all these questions and stuff like this. This stuff happens. It happens to every single team. And if you're going to losing the way they did is not that devastating, if you ask me. And now their job is to dissect it, understand it. And at the end of the day, it really is a come from within type of thing. It's not an X's and O's. It's not a personnel thing. It's okay, you weren't able to get your best going for 2 games in a row now. Now it's time to hyper focus, gather yourself, be prepared, uber prepared to drop the hammer here. Because let's be honest here, Jersey's up next, correct? And they're no slouch. So it's not like the schedule. It's one of those times where the schedule's not going to do you any favors. You got to be hyper prepared for the next one and make sure you get yourself a win on the board.
Another busy week. They got a 4-game slate. Starts with a game in Newark on Tuesday. But I was going to reference and talk about, first and foremost, the game against Washington. I was in attendance for that game. Weirdly enough, a lot of the focus after that game was regarding the puck off the skate. And Craig Berube was asked about it a couple times. I'm interested to get your thoughts on how that went down. I know a couple of the media members were talking about like should you blow down the play? I thought it was ridiculous. To me, it's just part of the game. Do you agree?
Yeah, it's one of those things. Craig Berube, I think his words were, that's a huge can of worms you're trying to open. And anytime something odd happens that isn't part of the natural ergonomics of the game, people are always like, well, that's not right. We should put in a rule to protect against that. And it's like, that's a pretty logical thing to think right off the bat, but it's very short-sighted because let's say, okay, let's do that. Let's make a rule where that play for the Toronto Maple Leafs, Austin Matthews going behind the net D to D, it bounces off the referee's skate, goes right in front, and it's in the back of your net, and that's the difference in the game. Okay, let's make sure that never happens again by blowing it down when something like that happens. Think about that. Think about all of the games across the NHL. What consists of bounce? Is it anytime it touches the referee? Does it only have to end up in the back of somebody's net? Does it have to only end up in a scoring chance? When do you blow it down? What zones do you blow it down? Who decides? Like, it's just, oh my God. Like, that is, you'd rather just say, hey, stuff happens once in a while. You're going to catch a bad break. It is what it is. Maybe go north with it, Austin. Maybe see that the ref's not there and try not to. It's just, it's nobody's fault. Nothing needs to change. It is what it is. I agree with Craig Berube. You cannot open that can of worms, or all of a sudden you got this nightmare on your hands of the stupidest rule would have to come into play, and it would screw up so many things and be so controversial. Leave it alone. Shit happens.
I hate the default with every fan base in pro sports where the default is like, oh, the refs screwed us. I was there at that game. Simply put, the better team won that hockey game. That Washington Capitals team, man, is really, really impressive. Alex Ovechkin's on that lineup right now. Of course, Spencer Carberry, the former assistant with Toronto, now the head coach there. They got something going there, man. If you recall, even in the first game against Toronto, for 2 periods, they were the better team. Then I thought, again, they were the better team on Friday. Again, they deserved more credit than they got after that victory. For some reason, again, in conversation with fellow media members and the fan base, people were talking about the official. I'm like, the better team won that game. I don't know if you agree with that.
Well, I do think there's been some bad calls
Sure, yeah.
happening, no question. But is that the deciding, like, is that the reason they lost? I don't add up to that. And I definitely don't subscribe to the notion that the league is screwing the Maple Leafs. I mean, if you talk to Oilers fans, they think the same bloody thing. If you talk to anybody, everyone thinks that. Everyone thinks that, you're watching with biased lenses on, and you notice much more the calls against yours, and then in your mind it's always these bad calls against your team, and all of a sudden this narrative comes up that there's a conspiracy against your team. It's stupid. I don't subscribe to that. They have better things on their time, the NHL, than to try to create a conspiracy against the Toronto Maple Leafs. It's stupid. But I will say that the calls in this league are becoming a problem, and I know that's been a narrative forever, but the last 2 weeks, there have been multiple calls against multiple teams where there's absolutely no reason for your ref to put your hand up. Like, how do you benefit this? There was a time when they're trying to call everything because they're getting rid of the clutching and grabbing. They want to open the game up. Scoring was down. They wanted to get more eyeballs on the game of hockey. I get it. But nowadays, scoring's up. There's guys breaking Gretzky's records and whatnot. These guys are hyper skilled. You don't have to call those little, the stick came near his pants there while he was skating. He didn't trip. He didn't fall. He didn't lose the puck, but your arm went up. Like, what's the purpose of that? In my opinion, these special teams kill the flow of the game. They kill the momentum. They kill the excitement. They kill the intensity. And I'm tired of watching pucks or sticks not even touch a guy. The guy falls and the arm goes up. Tell these refs, settle it down on the stick things, make sure it's a drastic, taking away the guy's ability to skate, taking away his ability to control the puck, taking away the ability to have a scoring chance. Okay, put your arm up. But otherwise, leave this ticky-tack shit alone. It's getting embarrassing, and everyone's noticing it. Now the coaches are starting to address it.
Yeah, excuse me. For me, it's getting out of hand, and the thing that ticks me off is like the standard changes from the playoffs to the regular season. It gets to the playoffs, and then we're not going to call anything, but in the regular season, you're calling everything. I think Maxentius Decimus in the chat, very concise, bro. The rest were shit, and the better team won. You can have both, right?
Totally, 100% you can. And again, both of those games and those losses, like one little thing, one power play, one missed chance by Nyes or Tavares, or breakaways by Willie, or that bounce off the or the play gets blown down when the guy doesn't have his helmet. Like, take your pick, one little thing, and all of a sudden we're having a different conversation. Oh, we're so happy the Leafs won. Well, if the margins are that thin, we're not gonna go too deep of a dive into it and start to dissect the loss. It was one of those games. You're not going to win all of them. If you're going to lose, it's nice to lose by that thin of a margin, and then you try to regroup and get on the board on the next one.
Man, those 2 calls on Pacioretty on Saturday were an absolute joke. For roughing on back-to-back shifts where it's like the one specifically, there was a massive scrum after the whistle, and they only took Pacioretty. Like, that's the type of shit I think people are tired of.
I don't know. It's like they're still locked in that mindset of power plays are good, special teams are exciting, they lead to goals and more fireworks, but I don't know. I don't find that, man. I find that the back and forth and the flow of the game and the momentum changes and that being up for grasp or being up for grabs and the cycling and the ozone time and the chances and the scoring and the responses and the back and forth and the hitting and the intensity. That's a hockey game and it's fun to watch. And you look back at games that go back and forth really well and you go, that was fun, wasn't it? I didn't know who was going to win. It was going this way, it was going that way. But when they blow the whistle at time, oh, TV timeout now, and we're back with do. It's just like one after another, one after another. You're not even seeing the flow of the lines roll. You're not seeing the game transpire the way it naturally is supposed to and always had. You're just stopping it all the time for this 5-on-4, 5-on-4. And I don't find it exciting. I don't find it good for the game. Just like I said, the scoring's up, the skill is up. You don't have a clutch and grab anymore. This isn't 10, 20 years ago where you're trying to rectify a problem in the league. Stop calling that ticky tack shit. Like, just stop. Let it go. Nothing bad happens if you do. Nothing bad happens if you do. Everyone the team that is awarded the penalty, like gets the power play, is often like, holy shit, I can't believe they called that. What's the purpose of that? You don't need it. It doesn't help anyone.
Yeah, it's just a really confusing time. And again, it's not just the Leafs Nation fan base; it's scattered across the league, where every fan base, every team has no clue what
Yeah.
is or what
I'm
isn't
not
a penalty anymore. And that's the bigger problem in this situation. But we could spend a whole show talking about officiating. But I want to get that in there because some of the calls were just absolutely egregious. Again, the Tuta already stood out in the Pittsburgh game. He returns, plays 14:34. Do you like the look with Pacioretty on the top line with Matthews and Marner?
Oh, yet to be seen. I think you could go back and forth with it. Who plays with who? They're all viable options. I want to see him some more. I want to see him some more there. I think there's a few different guys that could play with those players, and again with them together, split. I think that's still it's December. Yeah, I'm fine with it. I have no problem with it. Is it the thing I want written in stone? Maybe not. I think this team is yet to find um, some concrete lines with the time and the runway to go with it and to get the chemistry going. The injuries they've had, I mean, they're absolutely shocking when you put them all down on paper and the times that these players have missed, that the Leafs are even in the position they are. Once again, we've done many shows on it. So I want some runway with some healthy bodies and a full roster to see what these lineups, what these line combinations should be.
On a scale of 1 to 10, what's your level of concern when it comes to secondary scoring? Because naturally, this team doesn't win. People are going to find excuses, reasons why they don't win. The big thing throughout this season, they're not scoring enough. They're not scoring enough. I'm probably maybe in the minority where I think that this team is better served to play meaningful and successful hockey in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And that means a tighter checking 2-1, 3-1 type hockey game. But there are a lot of people out there that want to see this team score. But I think there's no doubt, I think we can both agree a lot of the conversation lately has been about the big four and those guys scoring goals and some of the tertiary options not really doing much right now, Rosie.
Yeah, and whether that's disappointing or expected is kind of in the eye of the beholder. But I mean, the Holmbergs, the Robertsons, the Dewars, the Alex Nylanders, Grabankin, these are guys that are shoved in that are, it would be nice if a couple of them chipped in or one of them chipped in every
Yeah.
second night, but it's just not happening. And I think that honestly, if you're having this conversation, I think someone from the outside that's not so close to it would be like, well, what do you expect? A really, really offensive, well-rounded, consistent lineup with everyone that you've had hurt? Why on earth would you expect that? It's kind of silly. Like, the expectations are too high for these. Like you say, you're getting your big boys to score. You've been on an absolute run for days and days. Your goalies are ridiculously good. You haven't lost back-to-back games in a long, like a month and a half plus. Like, relax, man. You can't expect that out of these players. These guys, Alex Nylander is not going to be in the NHL. Holmberg, I'm not very sure about. I think that Grabankin's probably going to go back and develop a little bit more in the minors. Robertson has been an absolute ghost all season. Like, the writing's on the wall for this guy. He's going to be moving on. Like, he's got every chance in the world, and he has literally done next to nothing with it. These guys we need guys healthy. You need to get McMahon's back. You need to get Domi's back, and then see what's what. But they don't even have near a full roster, so I don't really understand the judgment on the tertiary scoring. They're not really even guys that are slated to be on this roster.
At the Leafs Nation 401, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button here on Leafs Morning Take. I was in the presser, post game Friday. Craig Berube just so disgusted with Nick Robertson. He played 9:35, had 2 shifts in the third period, a wild sequence where he goes offside on a potential 2-on-1. Then he compounds things with taking a bad cross-checking penalty, and that was the night for Nick Robertson. Then a health bomb on Saturday. We've done this so many times. His days have to be numbered. Once these guys come back, he's going on waivers is the likely destination, in my opinion. I don't know who's acquiring this guy right now.
Yeah, I mean, they've already been down that road. They tried to shop him around a little bit. There wasn't enough interest, and that was even pre-season type stuff, and nothing happened. And since then, his stock has only gone down. I mean, you look at the amount of opportunity he's had, the consistent amount of starts in a row. Like, there's nothing this guy can complain about. It's all within him. And it's unfortunate because he's working his butt off. It's not, he's some lazy, entitled prick who you just can't
I
stand
know.
and can't believe the
Doesn't
audacity.
talk.
By
Yeah.
all accounts, he seems like a
Yeah.
good dude. He works his butt off out there. But as far as development and turning into a contributing player for this organization, it's not there. It's just not there. He doesn't score the goals. And, there's some guys, not everybody scores goals, but he's a goal scorer, and he doesn't do anything to value and justify a spot on that roster without scoring the goals. And yeah, the writing's on the wall for him. Unfortunately, it would have been phenomenal if he developed in a different way and turned into his brother, where he's capable of putting up 30 plus goals a year. It doesn't look like it's happening, and they've tried, and they by all accounts, you can't blame the Leafs for this happening. It's with Nick Robertson, and unfortunately he just hasn't developed into what we had hoped.
I do think he deserves to be commended because it's been very quiet. Like, even the way he voices displeasure in the offseason, like, there really hasn't been a media clip where Robertson's like, get me the hell out of here, or I'm pissed off, I'm annoyed. He, to his credit, puts his head down, does his thing. It's just not working out. I mean, it's quite visible. It's not working out. You sort of felt great for him in training camp, was scoring left and right in the preseason, got to the regular season, can't find it. I think it's just the perfect example of a player just needs to change the scenery right now.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not writing his career off.
Yeah.
A change of scenery could do different things. This game is so very mental, and to have expectations on his shoulders, and he's always kind of been that, will give me a chance to turn into what I want to. And then the little bit of chances that he did have early on, and then now you can't say he hasn't had a chance, but all the chances that he's had hasn't really developed into what anybody's wanted. And I think that wears on a guy's mind mentally, being in this market, having people like us talk about it, and try and decide if he's worthwhile to even be in the lineup. That wears on a guy. You go down in Columbus or San Jose or Anaheim, or take your pick, somebody picks him up, and all of a sudden, new lease on life. Maybe he blossoms into something that's worthwhile. I hope that's the case, because like I said, by all accounts, seems like a good enough guy. Just not getting the job done in Toronto.
Yeah, I mean, I could say the same about Alex Nylander. Like, I was really tempering expectations when they signed him to an NHL deal, but he's not an NHL player. Again, there's a reason why every team passed on this guy in the offseason. I understand he had a bit of a jolt with Columbus last year, post-deadline acquisition, but he's an American Hockey League player. I think we're realizing that really, really quickly here.
Yeah, very good hockey player, and there's very good hockey players that are career minor American Hockey Leaguers and European players, and he's got the name to kind of say, well, maybe he's got the pedigree to kind of turn to what his brother is. He's a pretty high first round pick, potential through the roof, but there's just simply, there are players that are that good but just can't get over the edge, can't quite get to the finish line. As far as, especially a skill player that's supposed to finish, the proof's in the pudding. You can create the chances, you can get out there, you can be somewhat noticeable, but you just can't finish the play. You can't get on the score sheet. You just can't get over that hump. And he seems to be one of those players. And the longer you go and get to his age, where it's kind of a theme, all of a sudden, your window of opportunity is closing. He got one here right now. If he would have ran with it, he could have created a story and could have created, a new path for him in his career. again, can't get over the finish line, can't get over the hump, can't quite do enough to justify the spot in this league. And I think, like you said, that's been his reputation. That's followed him around. There's a reason he was on an American League contract beforehand. I think the writing's on the wall here.
Matt McKay writes in, teams didn't pass on Alex according to the rumors. He chose to sign AHL deal here. So you're telling me a guy passed up NHL contracts to play an American Hockey League contract in Toronto? I buy that because
Yeah, I
according
don't
to
know who's
rumors,
starting these
all these
rumors.
rumors,
Doesn't
people
make
know.
sense. Honestly, like the fact that the fact that he did take that American League deal and then to have to sign, like it was kind of confusing because he's on a one-way right now. Like if he goes to the Marlies tomorrow, he will be making NHL money minus escrow the whole time. Like that is an absolute gift for the guy, an absolute gift considering he was slated to probably stay in the American League the entire time, barring these injuries. So can't complain on that one on a personal, professional money level with that contract that he was able to finagle out of necessity for the Toronto Maple Leafs, but didn't do enough to warrant being on the team for the foreseeable future. When these guys get healthy, it's not there.
You know what's unique is that a lot of what Nick Robertson has dealt with in his career, ditto for Alex Nylander. Like you're in the shadow of your brother. Like it's kind of peculiar that they're on the same team right now, these two guys, because they're sort of the same type of player and role.
That is funny. Yeah, they could
Yeah.
totally sit there and rolling out in the gym in the morning and they could have an honest conversation about, man, why can't we just get over the hump? Why can't we just take that last step into solidifying ourselves as a legit NHL player? And neither of them have. They've been damn close. They've been there. They've done enough to get opportunities and to get the looks, but they can't quite bring it to the finish line. And I can't say that it's for lack of opportunity because they've both had a fair amount of them and they haven't seized the moment, unfortunately for them.
Vindictive Raider writes in, let's just downplay the crappy play of this team. Not going to get you any viewers, that's for sure. Yawn. So this guy's losing his shit over back-to-back losses mentioned. The Leafs' last set of back-to-back losses in regulation, October 22nd and 24th, so over a month ago. And this guy's ready to lose his mind after back-to-back losses.
Because we're not tearing them. What does he want us to tear apart? What do you want us to tear apart? Who do you want us to trade? Who do you want us to send down?
I legit,
Who do you want us
Rosie, I
to
think there's
fire?
people out there who expect teams to go 82-0. Like, I'm not kidding.
I know. And you know what? If they were blowouts and if they blew a lead and if they were, different types of losses require different type of responses. And this is just a classic. Like I said, if you're going to lose back-to-back games, which I don't know the stats, there is no chance in hell that there has ever been a Stanley Cup winning team that hasn't lost back-to-back games. So when it happens, all right, let's take a look at this. How did they lose? What happened in there? Again, any single one of those bounces could have gone the other way. If that puck doesn't go off the ref's foot, they very likely get the next goal and win that game. That's a different story. Now we're like, I'm not tearing a team apart based on that thin of margins for your entertainment value. We lay on the Leafs plenty when it's due, but I'm not doing it for the sake of doing it. And one thing I'll say, score the first goal. They haven't scored the first goal for a few now. You get behind the 8 ball, it sets the tone. I think you win maybe 80 to 85% of the games that you score the first goal in. It's hurting them so that you could talk about their starts and getting the first goal. But again, you go and dissect both of those games, the margins are quite thin as far as getting worked up about the loss, especially the one against Washington.
I thought it was a very meh by his standards weekend for Austin Matthews. It's so bizarre, and people are gonna create narratives wherever they can. But now 3-2 in 5 games since Matthews came back. But for some reason, they look a little different. Which again, maybe it was a desperation of having half your roster out, but just the style of the brand's a bit different the last little while.
Yeah, a little bit. I think that schedule, it was a busy week for them and it's not really the dog days of the season necessarily, but these are the days where, you can let a couple slip by and it's a mental thing. I think that's why Craig Berube was pissed off and he probably showed as much emotion as anyone because that's kind of his job is to build this team into something that can be super consistent, that can always access their best, that is just by default setting ready to go at a high level. And when you have back-to-back one of those, I mean, the Pittsburgh one to me is disappointing. You're much better than that team. You don't score the first goal. The response wasn't really there after the Washington game. I would like to see. It's not an X's and O's thing. It's not a personnel thing. It's an attitude thing. It's a work ethic, move your feet. What kind of passion are you going to play with? Are you going to bring the intensity? Are you going to show hunger? Are you going to play together and do all those little things as hard as you goddamn can to ensure you make a win? That's what needs to happen. And that's why Craig Berube was probably a little bit short, is because they just, as good as they are, they damn near won those games, but they kind of went into it a little bit, not with the utmost intensity that you require in this league to win night after night after night.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And again, you can speak best to this. You played in this league. You know the grind of an 82 game slate and a long season in general when it comes to playing hockey. You're gonna have your ups, your downs. But I'm with you. It wasn't more the Washington game. I think they lost to a really competitive and good team. It was more so the Pittsburgh game. Although we talked about it, trap game or not, whatever you want to call it, the Pens had been playing excellent coming into that game, and a couple bounces either way. I think it goes in favor of the Maple Leafs. I do think they were the better team in that game against Pittsburgh, but the Pens executed, and I thought it was like a rare so-so night for Joseph Woll. We talked about how high he's been. He had 6-game winning streak going into that game. I thought he was just okay. A couple of those he probably could have had.
And that's the difference right there. A lot of the wins that they've had right there, those two goaltenders have made those saves. That one save, that one big one, and then it allows the Leafs to win by one. Like, very empty netter. 4-2 win. What an incredible performance. Yeah, you made it happen when you need to. Like, that's the difference. That's how thin the margins are. Like you said, Joseph Woll didn't really stand on his head and, have a 96% in the game. And that was the difference. They were just a hair short. So whether it's one time where you hit the post or you bury it, one breakaway where you don't quite get the right move off, one penalty that they score on that kind of kills you, or one save that you just don't quite get that you're used to getting. That's the difference in the game in the NHL. That's why we're not tearing this thing down. That's why Buddy's yawning, because he doesn't really realize that sometimes those games are that thin. The parity in this league is very tight. Anyone can literally beat anyone on any given night. It's not like other sports where it's just, there's one team just has no bloody chance of beating the other. It's really not like that. It's a fast-paced, team-oriented game, and one save, one of those little things can be the difference in the game. And they just were on the wrong side of it this weekend. Move on and try to be on the right side of it this week and elevate your game so it doesn't come down to that thin of margins.
At the Leafs Nation 401, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. I don't know about you. I was sort of chuckling over Michael Bunting's celebration. Like, he celebrated like he won the Stanley Cup after scoring that goal, which is hilarious considering that Pens team will be scratching for their playoff lives all season long, and they're middling at best.
Yeah, it was kind of a big goal. It's against his former team. Sure, Selly. I don't know, man. I'm not a big Selly guy. I coach minor hockey, and some of the Sellies these guys do, it's just a cultural thing. I don't know if it starts with Fortnite or what the hell it is, but I'm not a huge fan of it. A little bit extra, which kind of pisses off the Maple Leafs fans. I could understand that, but for him, it was a big one, and he wanted to Selly. Is what it is. But yeah, it reminded me of yesterday. My Pee-wee team lost. They were 4-0 and they lost to this team. They got an empty netter, lost by 2, close game, and the other team acted like they won this. Like, I thought they were going to throw their helmets and gloves up, and me and the other coaches are like, "What the hell did they win the cup over there? We didn't know about." And sometimes you just, you really want one, and when you get it, you get a little bit excited. Bunting was one of them.
I like KPG writing in, Bunting celebrated like Robertson screamed. Remember that game in Tampa a week ago where Robertson finally scored a goal and celebrated?
Well, it was a nice goal. It was an
It was
absolute
huge. Yeah.
absolute missile snipe. And I told you, I said he scored one goal in like 20 games. I was like, you watch when he scores, there's going to be a major relief valve that you can see on his face. And yeah, he let out a scream going finally type thing. So it is what it is, man. Yeah, I don't know. But it didn't piss me off. Bunting did it. I was like, you prick. He took the chance to shove it in his face. It was an extra special goal for him against a former team.
Man, we got to get Schenner out of Nashville. Like, the Preds are an abomination this year. They're so bad now. O'Reilly's banged up week to week. They got Steven Stamkos playing center. He's been a winger for like 5 years, but Schenner's not known for his offensive acumen. He's got 1 goal, 28 games. He's 35. He's got a year left in his deal at 2.75. I can see a pathway where bringing back Luke Schenn would make sense. Like, anywhere you can add depth on your roster, I'm all for it. I think he's an upgrade over Hockenpah. I think he's an upgrade over Myers. I think he's an upgrade over Timmins. Do you like that fit?
Yeah, potentially. I could like that. I think if you get him on that right side, a right-handed defenseman, and we talk about playoffs all the time being the only thing that matters, he's a guy that flourishes in the playoffs. He's got the experience and the pedigree, and he knows how to play that style. And if you look at what we have, the additions that we've made and the way guys are playing, big McCabe fan, I'm a big Benoit fan, OEL, Tanev, they speak for themselves the way they've came in here. Morgan Riley still, who's had, chemistry with Luke Schenn in the past. You get him on there, and that makes that back end look absolutely deadly, which is attractive. And how does that work? You got to fit his contract in. I think what happens here is it funnels down to what's going to happen with these forwards. What kind of depth are you looking like up front? If you need to move a guy out or take some money off the table, that could potentially open up something for a Luke Schenn to happen. And based on the way that their season is going, I haven't talked to Luke about it, but I can imagine that it's pretty exciting times in Toronto right now. He has he enjoyed his time. He came back here for a reason. The team has potential to win a bloody Stanley Cup this year. I think there's a lot of reasons that could fit in that. Things are going to have to shake up and go in the right direction here and fall into place for that to happen. But it's something that's attractive for sure.
Yeah, and for sure, talking to him, how many times we have, obviously, you're close to them. He loved his time in Toronto both times. I just think it would be a really, really good fit. And I think to your point, the irony of bringing in Chris Tanev was to play him with Morgan Riley, but that hasn't been a fit. And they're still probably looking for a guy to play with Morgan Riley. And the sample size, relatively small, but in their short time, the first go around and the second go around, there seems to be something there with a pairing of Riley and Schenn. So, I think if you can go out and get a guy who's won before, rugged, that playoff type performer, I think it would be dumb not to at least look at that venture.
Yeah, and see where it fits. We've talked about Kampf and his, where he fits and slides. He makes a chunk of money, but if you get Kampf off the book, sometimes all of a sudden Chenner slides in. How do you get him though? What do you give up? What are they looking for? Obviously, I don't think Nashville has a ton of leverage with how they're doing. They just need to figure something out. I think their problem is they have no centers. They got a lot of the same-handed shot that does the same type of job, and it's just not like, yeah, you got a lot of good players, but no one really went deep into the mainframe there and said, well, who's doing what and who likes to sit at what spot in the stem. They've got guys that like to do the exact same thing with nobody to, go get them the puck and to set it up. I don't think they're a very well balanced team. Although when you look at it on paper, they look like really good. But as far as balance, they're screwed, and it has really caught up to them. It's an ugly, ugly place. So if that wasn't happening, I would say, well, Schen's just not going to leave Nashville. He's in a good spot with guys that he likes and a good program, a beautiful city. His family's there. You got to think about all the details that go into that. But if shit hits the fan and it's just continuing to go the way it's going in Nashville, and there's a way for any player to come to the Toronto Maple Leafs when you start sneaking towards the trade deadline, I think there'd be a lot of people that'd be willing to take a crack at that.
On top of that, Craig Berube knows the Schenn brothers very, very well. Braden in St. Louis, and he coached Luke in Philadelphia, right?
Yeah, there is that familiarity there too. And everything about Toronto, the personnel and where they're headed is quite attractive. And for a guy like Luke, he wouldn't be caught off guard or need to have any growing pains figuring out that market and playing in a place like Toronto. If you're coming from a smaller market team, it would be pretty familiar to him well, which is a bonus.
It's time for the last call, brought to you by Bet365. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Use code NATION, all in uppercase. That's NATION, uppercase. Today, a 3-game slate in the NHL on this Monday. I'm looking at the Patrick Laine shot prop. He's hitting 2 of 3 so far as a Montreal Canadian, playing host to the Anaheim Ducks. I believe Jacob Trouba will make his Ducks debut in that game, but I like the Laine shot prop against the Ducks tonight.
I don't mind that. I got mine on my screen too, and I was just looking at the value for the Anaheim Ducks with that Trouba bump. You get a guy, a former captain with turmoil, who's going to have a chip on his shoulder. I think that's kind of exciting for them. So why not just take a flyer and jump on the Anaheim Ducks money line?
If you have a chance to play shot blocks, right? Do you ever play shot blocks?
I don't. I never do.
Yeah, they're there. It's if you want to rip some Chris Tanev, by all means, but maybe play the Trouba shot blocks. I would imagine the numbers probably set it over 2.5, over at 2.5.
I'm going to be honest. My account looks so bloody sad right now after the Pittsburgh Penguins game.
Yeah, that was tough, man. We had that conversation in our group chat heading into the Pittsburgh game, and I admitted it after game. It's easy to admit it. I had a feeling. That Pittsburgh game specifically just had a feel. Everything pointed to the Maple Leafs, and the Pens come out with that type of effort. But sometimes you make good decisions. Sometimes you make bad ones. We all do it when it comes to, laying some coin out there. But yeah, it was just that type of night. You move on, buddy. It's all you can do.
It's what I'm going to have to do. Yep.
Yeah.
It's, again, and like we said, the schedule doesn't really get too easy. You got a worthy opponent coming up here with a little revenge game for Sheldon Keefe as well. So,
Yep.
you got to pull yourself up by your bootstraps and get things sorted out and come out with an effort that's conducive to winning. Not one of these just good enough to almost win, almost lose. They got to have a convincing effort here to turn things around mentally.
I'm curious to see their response. And you talk about Tuesday's opponent, the Devils. They threw a clunker against Colorado on Sunday, so they're going to be ready for that game. The next couple games here for the Leafs, they're home to Trouba's Ducks on Thursday, at Detroit Saturday, and home to Buffalo next Sunday. So if you recall those back-to-back 2-game weeks now, 8 games in 2 weeks for the Maple Leafs, their slate picks up. Should mention as well, coming up on Tuesday's show, we do have a monster interview book. We can't tell you who it is until we do the interview, but you're going to like it.
Yeah, big name that we've been wanting to get on for a little while, and Nikki Bobby made her happen there. So we're looking forward to getting that. When we get it in the can, we will announce it to you folks. And yeah, it's going to be an exciting one. I'm looking forward to doing it.
Looking forward to tomorrow as well. The Leafs and the New Jersey Devils round 2. If you recall, early in the year, I think it was the second game of the season following the loss in the opener to Montreal. The Leafs went into Newark, and they're going to try to do it again and win a hockey game, Rosie. And tomorrow we're going to tee that game up, right?
Yeah, looking forward to it. That's the thing with this season, this schedule. It doesn't stop. You get another chance at it in just a short couple of days. So looking forward to them getting back on the ice and hopefully having a different result than they did this weekend.
Crick Amanda writes in, is it Doug Gilmour? No, it is not Doug Gilmour. KPG producer Vic is the big interview.
That'd be nice. Talking about what kind of floral patterns he's going with for his wedding coming up, such things.
Hey, by the way, so what's your view on this? I read the fine print on Vic's wedding, and it's like a black tie affair. I'm like, Vic, I haven't worn a tie in 10 years.
You'll do what you were told because Mama Bear wants what Mama Bear
That's
wants.
exactly it. That's exactly it. And I said, you know what? I'm going to pick up a tie, a black tie. I'm going to look damn good for that wedding. In support of Sick Kids, our super chat here on the show, Jeff McKay, appreciate the donation. As a former Sick Kid, glad to donate to the cause. Hopefully a better game for the Leafs tomorrow. Thank you so much, Jeff.
Awesome. Love it. I like that we got this partnership going on because we knew we wanted these super chats going somewhere that mattered, and that's bingo right there. So we're excited for this right now. Hopefully it entices people to throw those super chats our way and can help out a great cause like Sick Kids organization.
Samurai writes in, must be Randy Carlyle if Rosie is that excited. Were you there for the interview last year with Carlyle? Was it me and you or somebody else? Huts, maybe?
I think I missed it. I would have remembered that because I just get
You missed it.
I was I couldn't bring myself to face him again. Nah, he's kind of he wasn't my favorite guy in the world, but I'm not the only guy that thinks that. I still would have interviewed him, but I do not remember being present for that one.
I would love to see a one-on-one with you and Randy Carlyle, just shooting the breeze.
Ask him about his tactics sometimes, and no, some of those old school guys. I don't know. I've heard coaches in the past that I've not liked. They've been on podcasts saying, yeah, I don't know if I went about it the right way and if I handled players certain ways, and they have regrets and stuff. Sometimes eras and generations catch up to guys, and no hard feelings at the end of the day, I don't think.
I love that. A soft spot from Jay Rosehill. We're going to leave it at that. At the Leafs Nation 401. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. Leafs Morning Take. Wherever you find your podcast, make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And don't forget to visit LeafsNation.com. Thank you to producer Vic. Thank you to everybody in the chat. For Jay Rosehill, I'm Nick Alberga. We'll talk on Tuesday. Take care. Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long-form interviews. We got clips. We got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.